Thank you. After the shootings at Sandy Hook Elementary in Newtown, Connecticut, last December, where 27 children and staff were killed, the NRA proposed, as a solution to prevent future school shootings, that armed guards be placed at every school in the country. We're barring that. We have volunteer armed teachers and staff. As rationale, Wayne LaPierre, the president of the NRA, offered, quote, "The only thing that can stop a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun." There was a lot of public revulsion to this suggestion by the NRA. They did not offer any new gun control measures. They didn't talk about gun control of any kind. The NRA solution was quite simply more guns, more armed citizens. This is consistent with their line of thinking and past proposals for dealing with shootings. A favorite saying of the gun rights movement is, "An armed society is a polite society." If more citizens were armed and criminals knew this, they would be less likely to engage in criminal behavior, and armed citizens could stop them if they did. Even before Newtown, I have been doing a lot of thinking about guns in schools and in the classroom because of a growing trend to allow guns on college campuses. This past fall, Colorado became the 5th state in the country to allow concealed carry of weapons on campus, and state legislatures are lining up across the country to approve similar laws. Maybe Maryland will be next, or soon. The movement to allow guns on college campuses picked up after the Virginia Tech shooting in 2007, when 32 people were killed by a lone gunman. Then, as now, critics say the problem with our schools and colleges is their status as gun-free zones. Criminals know this. They know they will encounter no resistance there, and this makes our schools especially vulnerable. If professors or students had been armed that day at Virginia Tech, perhaps they could have stopped the shooting early on, or so the thinking goes. But I find this a troubling prospect, that we would have students and faculty armed on campus. The NRA argues that individual gun ownership is the mark and guarantee of freedom. But an armed society where people carry guns in public or out in the open, like in Oklahoma, which became the 15th state to enact an open carry law just last November, this doesn't seem like a free society to me. People carry weapons because they are compelled by the threat of violence, because they feel less free. More importantly, guns diminish the freedom all around. And further, an armed society is not recognizable as a civil society. It's not civil society when you have to force people to be polite at the threat of violence. In these respects, guns are of interest to me as a college professor. I tried to imagine how their presence in the classroom might affect the atmosphere and the learning environment there, because I'm sure they would. My sense here comes from a quote by the German philosopher Hannah Arendt, who said in her book, The Human Condition, quote, "Violence is mute." She argues there that speech distinguishes political association as such, the highest form of human association, which is devoted to securing the freedom of its members, that is, its citizens. Violence, or the threat of it, is a pre-political manner of communication and control. It's characteristic of undemocratic organizations, she argues, and hierarchical relationships. And she points to the ancient Athenians, who practiced an incipient form of democracy. And for them, violence was distinctive of the master-slave relationship, not that between free citizens. So Arendt offers 2 points that are important for our thinking about guns, to my mind. For one, they insert a hierarchy and undermine equality. 2, they pose a challenge to liberty, and in particular, the freedom that would distinguish democracy, any democracy worthy of the name, and that is freedom of speech. Guns communicate, but in a way that is contrary to free speech aspirations. Guns chasten speech. This becomes clear if you pry just a little bit into the logic behind the NRA's armed society. An armed society is polite because it compels people to tamp down on eccentric behavior or what seems threatening. Guns liberally dispersed in society cause us to walk gingerly, not make any sudden, unexpected moves, watch what we say, how we act, whom we might offend. This makes for a very uncomfortable society, one that is distinctly unfree, where caution and trepidation reign. And in that sense, that means that they are an inappropriate ingredient in the classroom. In fact, guns would be a noxious influence. The college classroom is supposed to be that eminently free and civil space in our society. It's supposed to cultivate certain virtues that encourage the free exchange of ideas, such as courage, respect, open-mindedness, generosity. Guns pose an obstacle to the cultivation of these virtues insofar as they sow their opposites: suspicion, mistrust, unease. A powerful example that illustrates the effect of guns on speech was in the summer of 2009 at a town hall protest against Obamacare in New Hampshire. There was a protester who showed up armed, openly carrying a weapon, and he had a sign that referenced a quote by Thomas Jefferson, effectively accusing the president of tyranny and suggesting that armed insurrection is in order over health care. No one engaged the man. No one approached him to debate or discuss, although this was a town hall meeting intended for just such purposes. He stood quite alone. It occurred to me then that speech is not so free if it has to be backed up by a gun. Indeed, this man felt he was compelled by the tyranny of President Obama and carried a gun to express this. Further, the armed protester tells us something about the effect of guns on speech. Like it or not, guns transform the bearer. They transform him into a threat and end the conversation in some fundamental way. They indicate that conversation is not wholly unbounded, unfettered, and free, but there can be an end to negotiation and debate, and perhaps soon, especially if the conversation gets heated. Guns are a combustible ingredient in speech. Simply put, they don't mix with taking offense. But in a vibrant college classroom, offense may be taken. Some professors will tell you that seminar discussion should push the envelope and offend on occasion if it's sufficiently incisive, exploratory, and challenging. It's the purpose of our classroom. It's that specially dedicated space in our society where offensive ideas are aired and tested. That is to say, the classroom is a laboratory for experiments in speech, both those that are doomed to and deserving of failure, and those that make a contribution to society. As such, the college classroom is intended to be the laboratory and touchstone for our democracy. Gun rights advocates will say my concerns are overblown. They'll say the weapons will be hidden. The weapons might be there already, for all I know. But I would argue that the possibility of their presence, officially sanctioned, which will make them the norm, does change things, and definitively. Even the possibility of their presence in the classroom, the possibility that they're lurking in some backpack or handbag or in my desk, diminishes the ideal freedom and openness of the classroom to which we aspire. It's no longer that place where teachers and learners can feel comfortable, liberated to explore, weigh ideas, and take part in the often tumultuous process that entails. The presence of guns infects the classroom with corrosive caution and fear, and ultimately intellectual timidity and inhibition. And this universities cannot tolerate. But I've tried to suggest that neither can our democracy tolerate it. To the extent that guns frustrate speech and assembly, they're an obstacle to the essential resources of our democracy: Guns are also a powerful force of isolation, I'd point out. An armed society is ultimately a society of atomistic individuals, wary of one another, removed from one another by weapons. It's a fragmented society and, ironically, powerless as such. Guns may have their place in our society, just not anywhere and everywhere. Guns have a chilling effect on freedom. We must be careful in exercising that. Thank you.